So for our third session today, we'll be joined by Andy Vans, Freire, Sasha Boichuk, Freire, and Dr. Penias-Tembo, all of whom are ambassadors at Becoming a Doctor. So they'll be hosting a Q&A panel on international medical students studying abroad. So I'll hand over to them, and I would just say we might expect one or two technical issues whilst trying to get the final panel listed. But do enjoy the session and do put any questions into the chat.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the International Students and Doctors session. One of our panelists is having bad internet connection, so we will start and then hopefully they'll be able to join. Second. All right, so I'm just going to introduce all the panelists, and if the panelists could turn on their videos. And then we're going to just talk through some topics, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. So if at any point you have any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll answer them later in the session. Sorry, can everyone hear me? Can someone just say in the chat if you could hear me? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Can you see the other panelists? For some reason, I can't see anybody else. Maybe that's just me, or
everyone's visible on the bottom of the screen.
Okay, no worries. All right, so just an introduction. So my name is Sasha. I'm a fifth-year medical student at Humanitas University in Milan. I'm originally Russian, but I was born in the US and I grew up in Switzerland. And there I graduated from high school with an IB diploma. I have a particular interest in general surgery and medical education. We also have Ray with us. She's a first-year medical student at the State University of Mato Grosso in Brazil. She's interestingly the youngest member of our panel, having started her medical studies at only 17 years old. Even at such a young age, she's very passionate about medicine and medical education. Then we have Freire, and she is a fifth-year medical student at the European University of Cyprus. She is Greek and got admitted into medical school with a Greek high school diploma, having graduated from Athens College. She is an active member of the International Federation of Medical Students Association and the Cyprus Medical Students Association Standing Committee of Medical Education, and is a trainer at the surgery club of her university. Andrew is a fourth-year medical student at Sumy State University Medical School in Ukraine. He's originally from Ghana, where he finished high school. He's a student leader for the Ghana Students Association in his university and an ambassador for several Model United Nations programs. Then we also have Dr. Penias-Tembo, who unfortunately has bad internet connection, but in case he does come later, also introduce him. So he's a medical doctor that graduated from the University of Zambia. He's currently a research fellow under the Young Emerging Scientists Zambia and affiliated with the Center for Primary Care Research, University of Zambia, where he's working as a co-investigator in a study to determine the level of primary care offered for non-communicable diseases among prisoners. So now we're just gonna talk a bit and have quick introductions about our universities and what the medical program is like. So for me at my university, it is a 6-year program, which is split into preclinical and clinical. The first 2 years are preclinical and then is clinical. So in the clinical years, you get to rotate through different departments and specialties and learn the more practical side of medicine. And you do that all the way through until 6th year. And at the same time, you have lectures as well. So Ray, could you explain a bit how your university is like and what the course is like?
Hello, I'm from Brazil, and in my university we have like three three steps in our university. The first step, we have a basic cycle. So we learn the things in theory, but we go to hospitals and other things in the state, but it's like the basic. In the second step, we have a clinical cycle. So we go to hospitals more than have theory. And in the third step, we have the medical internship. So we just go to hospitals. And I'm in the basic cycle, so I'm finishing this. And the next step, I will do the clinic cycle. So that's it. In Brazil, we have 6 years to finish our medicine course, and I'm the first year medical student. So that's it.
Okay, I think I will move on and talk about my university. My name is Frida. I am Greek, but I study in Cyprus, in European University Cyprus. The way our degree is structured is pretty much similar to what Sasha said. It's 6 years. The first 3 of them are the preclinical, and the next 3 are the clinical ones. Throughout the 3 clinical years, we go through different specialties and we rotate throughout the years. But although the first 3 years are the preclinicals, where we mostly have only lectures, we are a very clinical-oriented university, so we have a lot of simulators in the premises of the school, where we will train on models, anatomy labs, we will practice our clinical skills, how to draw blood, how to take a blood pressure, so we will be prepared to move on in the clinical years, having some basic knowledge and not starting from scratch inside the premises of the hospital. Pretty much that's it.
All right. My name is Awuah, a fourth-year medical student of Smith State University. And concerning the structure of the educational system, I would say the medical school system in Ukraine, basically, they have 2 different parts. We have the first part to be the fundamental sciences, where we have these basic fundamental sciences that you have to really major in. Then there is a major exam after your 3rd course, that's your 3rd year of study. Then when you're able to complete this examination with success, you get the opportunity to further on major your clinical steps. That's till the 6th year. So first 3 years for the fundamental sciences, then extra 3 years for the clinical sciences. So basically, that's the system in Ukraine. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I had audio issues. So the next thing we just wanted to touch upon was the COVID response, since obviously it affected all of us, and we just wanted to talk a bit about how our respective universities dealt with this. So for my university, during the initial lockdown from March to around the summer, everything was canceled. So our clinical rotations were canceled and all the lectures were online. And we have an OSCE examination after every semester. And we had to do an online version, which of course cannot replace the real life version, but it was still, you know, at least some sort of an examination. With this semester, we are now all back on campus except the younger students. So for the clinical students, we are now in hospital, and before we go to the hospital, we have to get a swab done and serological testing to ensure that everyone is negative, as well as all the staff and the patients that are admitted. And actually in the ER, they do the rapid COVID test, obviously to ensure that everyone is negative as well. So it's very, very tightly controlled, and we are assigned one-to-one basically, so 1 student per 1 member of staff. So it's as little people as possible so that, you know, we can still do our clinical rotations, but that we remain safe. And then our lectures and the other clinical activities that we have are all online. So that is how our university dealt with this. So Ray, if you want to talk about it next.
Here in Brazil, all things was in online. In my university specifically, we still in the online virtual classes, but others universities return to the clinical, going to hospitals. But in my university, we still follow clinical practice. So I'm having online classes. The online classes begins like in August. So this is a problem in my university because we don't have a lot of structure to have online classes. It's a little difficult because the teachers have difficult to use technology, so it's a problem here. But all the things is online, and the internship doesn't have the clinical. We are not going to hospitals, we are not having practice. So I guess that we just will have practice in the next year, I suppose. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
We're not listening you.
We can't
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So during lockdown, the previous semester, the university took every measures to ensure both our safety and that we will not lose any of our clinical training, which was a bit difficult to do that. Although they did manage it, we actually started doing some clinical practice via online means, which was not the optimum. But later on, we went back inside the hospitals. All of our exams went online, as well as the lectures. Now, for this semester, our students, they are returning to campus, but they're split into groups. Because we are doing some, as I said before, some clinical training on models and simulators. So the university broke them down into different groups to resume their training. And for us, the clinical years, the university managed to give us the opportunity, if we wanted, to remain in the countries where we are coming from and fulfill our clinical training here and not go back in Cyprus. So for me, I'm Greek. I remained in Greece. I'm doing my clinical training here. I'm doing my lectures online. My examination is online. But some fellow students of mine, they went back to Cyprus. They're doing their clinical training there. That's it.
Thank you. Andy?
All right. When the COVID started, like when the whole issue came up, I would say that Ukraine, initially when it came, I was not fully in my clinical years. So I didn't really see the negative impact very well because my school already had a wonderful, well-structured online classes, which was not really active when we were attending classes live, but it was kind of a backup that we used to have. So we had to switch into that platform fully so that we could have our educational system like working throughout those online systems. I think it's not just in my school, it's across the whole of Ukraine. So we never expected the COVID to get to this end, but we are in November and COVID is still around the corner. So I'm fully in my practical years. But initially, I think around September, early September, I think late August, early September, I think the COVID was actually I think the restrictions were very good at that moment. So we had the opportunity to attend some wonderful clinical sessions and clinical classes. But I think the spike has risen again. There has been a very big issues with COVID, especially in my university. There was a whole surgical unit where they had to be quarantined due to COVID-19. So it became kind of like a worrying situation. So even there was this big examination that we had to write in for us to be ushered fully into our clinical years. But till date, we've still not been able to write this examination due to COVID issues. So I would say that it has negatively impacted us. Like it has really, really had negative impacts on us, especially on our clinical rotations and everything. And most of the things are now online on our online platform, and they are actually not giving us any single chances of getting back to the hospital anytime soon, because the issues with COVID at the moment is very, very alarming in my city, especially in my university. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Penias-Tembo was managed to join us, so if you could maybe talk to us a bit about your professional experience, and then also a bit about the response to COVID in your university and hospital.
Great. So sorry for I had some problems joining. So the response. So first and foremost, the COVID pandemic started when I was a student as well. So it hit some point in my country in Zambia. It hit some point in about March. We recorded our first cases in Zambia, and so that negatively impacted on our education. So literally speaking, everyone was sent home without backing as to what would happen next. So medical students spent about 3 months without doing anything home, without knowing the fate of their education, and that was really heartbreaking on our part, because we were in our final year, graduate in a few months, and then the pandemic hits and we're sent home and we do not know what's happening next. But our university, the university that I was attending to, which is the University of Zambia, it's the largest tertiary institution and produces the largest number of medical graduates in my country, devised a mechanism in which they did that they effectively out lessons with us. However, it's not the same experience as many of the others have earlier alluded to. Patients were greatly impacted and we couldn't go on the wards, meaning that the actual hands-on experience in some of the subspecialties was actually negatively affected. However, it must be said that despite that, many medical students managed to brave it. And 2 months after that, so some point in July, we were able to sit for exams. A mechanism of an in-person exam was actually instituted. So with the necessary COVID precautions taken, we were able to return to campus as final year medical students only, and we were able to sit for those examinations, and we were able to graduate. Post that, a number of students have actually been, now doctors, of course, have actually been part of the COVID pandemic fight, and it's a different ballgame altogether as compared to being a student. So as a medical doctor now, you're expected to take the lead, to take the initiative, and indeed, as we say during our Hippocratic Oath, we want to do it for God and for country, and indeed, we want to help everybody. So you put your life above everyone else, and it's as we have learned throughout our practice and throughout our training, it's something that we are privileged to do, and it's heartwarming yet scary to some extent. But we've managed to actually carry out that response. Our country recorded a number of COVID deaths throughout the process, but very few of those have been from medical professionals or doctors, as it may be. So it's been successful, and right now we have very few cases. We have less than 100 admitted patients, and our efforts have actually proved to be very effective as a country.
Good. Thank you so much. And then we briefly just wanted to touch upon some advantages and disadvantages and challenges of being an international student. So just to name a few. So for me personally, I am not Italian and I didn't speak Italian before. So having to learn a new language and having to immerse myself in a completely new culture and everything was challenging, but also very rewarding. It's obviously very cool to learn a new language, and most of our clinical activities are in Italian. So it's just really interesting to see what the medical system is like in another place, in another language. And actually sometimes if I need to say something in English, I actually have a hard time because I learned it in Italian, even though English is my first language. So that's also an interesting challenge. And because of this language barrier that we have in the beginning, we have a really tight-knit community of international students. So, I mean, we all have struggled through the same things, and it was hard for all of us to learn the language. And so in the beginning, especially, it's really nice to see and have that support system of other international students. Yeah, a big disadvantage in my university is that we don't get to use cadavers. So we have to, for anatomy, for example, so we have to learn everything through textbooks and practical activities and mannequins and YouTube. And I mean, we all managed to learn anatomy, but of course it's definitely not the same as actually working with an actual, human body. So that is quite a major disadvantage, but other than that, there have been no major disadvantages for me personally. So Ray, do you have anything to say?
So in my university, I see the advantages and the disadvantage because I moved in my own country, the city, so it's difficult this change. But in the advantage of my college, I look at because we have the PBL, so I like the PBL because it helps me to think clinic, and I really like this because I have practice in my basic cycle. So in the first years of my medicine course, I go to hospitals, I have contact with patients, with other doctors, and that's good for me because in the beginning of my medicine course, I can have more contacts and improve my knowledge. But talking about the disadvantage of my college, we have problems with structure. So the university doesn't have a good structure, and we have just 2 hospitals for a lot of students, a lot of medical students, and this limit our practice. So that is a disadvantage about the structure of the college. So anatomy laboratories is complicated for us because it's not enough for all the students, and that is an advantage. But I still like my university because of the method. So that's it. It's because I choose my university.
Okay, thank you. Frida?
One of the main disadvantages in my university, as it's similar to what Sasha said, we don't have cadavers, so that is a problem. But as I said before, we do have some simulators, and we actually have it's called Sectra Anatomy Table, which is a very state-of-the-art technology table where you actually see the entire anatomy 3D. Which, to be honest, when you do anatomy in cadavers, okay, of course it helps you because it makes you feel better prepared to go on and perform, for example, a surgical procedure. But the anatomy in the cadaver and the anatomy of an actual human, it's completely different. So the 3D anatomy that I am allowed to see through the Sectra, it's actually very helpful for me. The other thing now is that because we're generally a young university, we just recently, this year actually, we had the second class of graduates. The structure is a bit complicated, let's say, but the professors are very, very open to feedback. They're asking us for feedback. We're working very close with the profession, with our professors in order to build a better curriculum. We recently actually got recognition by the Worldwide Federation on Medical Education, because we were working very close with the professors to build a better, well-structured curriculum for us. And the other thing that I am a huge advantage actually for me is that we're affiliated with many hospitals worldwide. So we have the opportunity whenever we want, during summertime, during holidays, to go to another country and actually do clinical rotations there. So I've been to Rome, I've been to Germany, I've been to France. We do have this opportunity. And since the university is very clinical oriented, they actually puts us in clinics from first year. Like in first year, we have as a subject general surgery. So we have approximately a month where we will be in hospitals. And for a first year medical student to be inside the hospital that early, I feel very lucky, very blessed, and I am very happy. And I've seen how this has helped me throughout the years of my clinical training so far.
Sasha, we can hear you.
Hello. All right. So as you are waiting for Shaza, I will be speaking on the positives and the negatives of my university. So first of all, I will say that I really, really like the fact that I chose my university over almost all the other medical schools in Ukraine, because there were lots I heard about the school, and when I came, I wasn't disappointed. You know, there are lots of things that myself I will classify as positives, but I don't think the other student populace will see the same thing. So basically, where am I looking at? It means that it's not really, at times, it's not really just about the school, but personal, I think that it's really about the individual, because there is no perfect system anywhere around the world. If I pick myself as an example, there are a lot of things my school has really engaged me in, training me into a very, 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 very huge giant in the city. And I don't think the other student populace will say same, probably because maybe, life in medical school is actually different. It depends on your relationship with the teachers, your relationship with the student populace, your relationship with administration, a whole lot of issues going on. So positively, I would say that the school has tried its possible best to engage the students in some conferences. We have some wonderful international local conferences. We've been having that students get the chances to do lots of research works. And from there, that's where the problem lies. It depends on the student. So from there, whether you're going to take these works international or anything, it depends on your personal interest. So for me, personally, and some few students that I've been working with, we've been having wonderful international conferences representing different departments, having serious publications. It's been wonderful. The fact that I like my school is they are like, Ukrainian education is actually it's a European kind of education, and we are closer to a lot of big European countries. So you can be having a lot of conferences and international competitions and everything. So I really love that. I really love the aspect of the education. But negatively, as Madam Freire was speaking, she was talking about she getting the opportunity to have clinical rotations in other countries. Why? Because their school really have wonderful links and connections with other schools and universities across the globe. I think that's the disadvantage my school really has. I think that my school really has such opportunities, but they are not really open to international students. That's what I feel, because for their citizens, I think they will be having this, because most of the international students are not really having this kind of links to these rotations, especially unless you search them by yourself. Basically, I think you can really set them by yourself, though. But if the school really has a hand in all these activities, it will really broaden the horizon or the mindset of other students in the city or in the school, where they can really think about having other rotations in different countries. Because most of the international students it seems to be like they have no other choices than to go back to their home, back to their the countries that they came from, to have clinical rotations. Yes, I think in some way, somehow, it's to your own advantage when you go back to your home to have rotation, because it's your home, your people, you are familiar with the people, you can really have wonderful clinical sessions without any problem. You know, in Europe, there are a lot of these laws and human rights issues that where if you touch somebody and don't really take care, you can really find yourself at the other side of life. So I think basically that's the disadvantage, but there are a lot of advantages I can really hit on, but I don't think time will actually allow me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Penias-Tembo, you're not a student anymore, but when you were a student, could you reflect upon any advantages and disadvantages?
So I'll start with the advantages. So the beauty of the University of Zambia, which is a school that I attended, is it accords preclinical students an opportunity to actually dissect. So we have cadavers readily available, and students actually get a hands-on experience of anatomy, and it's really a wonderful opportunity to actually physically see what we actually want to learn in terms of anatomy. So that's a huge plus on our part. And in addition to having these cadavers, students actually have an opportunity to dissect at whatever time they want. So a schedule is usually given way in advance as to how fast students are expected to dissect, but they have an opportunity to dissect at whatever pace they want to do so. So that's another plus. Of course, there is a minimum threshold at which every student is expected to dissect, but then if someone is very quick, they can finish dissecting in the shortest period of time and keep on revising as much as they want to. So that's a huge plus from the University of Zambia's part. In addition, when students cross over from the preclinical years to clinical years, the university is attached to, or is indeed next to, the teaching hospital, which is the University Teaching Hospital of Zambia. So students have an opportunity to actually interact with the patients at whatever time, again, they so wish to do. So the actual medical experience and the actual clinical clerkship is full-blown. Students have an opportunity to participate in patient management and clinical diagnosis. They participate in the major ward rounds, the clinics, and indeed they even participate in theater cases and assist during theater. So students have a broad range of opportunities. It's all about what or how much knowledge this student wants to gain, what clinical expertise this student wants to obtain, because patients are readily available and students are at liberty to visit any patient they want to. And as long as they obviously get consent from that patient to talk to that patient, they can do anything and with that patient. So that's another plus for that. And then the environment as well. The environment in which the students come into is a plus. Someone can easily adapt into the Zambian environment. There is no racism of any sort. It's very easy to integrate into this culture. People are very welcoming. That's another benefit. However, it must be stated that the University of Zambia has limited accommodation. So that's a challenge that comes from learning from the University of Zambia. So it has limited accommodation. And so not all students, and including international students, actually manage to get accommodated. So they have to actually find alternative campus for them to actually live on. However, it must be stated that there are boarding houses around campus in which students can actually go and live in. And majority of students actually go and find accommodation in such type of places. But as for living on campus, it's really a challenge, and that mainly is the challenge that comes from learning from the University of Zambia. But other than that, it accords medical students an opportunity to develop a particular niche that they so wish to, and it's really diverse, and it's a very good institution to actually learn medicine from.
So now we're going to move on to the questions that were asked in the chat, and then if anyone else has any more questions, obviously feel free to keep putting them in the chat. So there was a question in the beginning specifically for Frida. Someone asked that they're looking to come study in Cyprus as well, if there are any tips for applying. And
so my degree is in English, but I'm studying at the Greek-occupied side of Cyprus. Planning to study in this side of Cyprus, then you should be prepared to learn Greek, because you cannot communicate in another way inside the clinics. But for your degree, like lectures and everything inside the university, you are okay with English. That's number one. Number two, it depends. Some universities, they're actually affiliated with the UK, with St. George's University, and they're a bit more demanding, let's say, as to the exams they're doing every 3 years to continue your studies. And if you want, you can go on to St. George's University. For my university, that's not the case. Again, demanding program, the one that we are running, because we have to be able to keep up with lectures, clinical training from early on, and actually maintain, let's say, a level of social life for our own mental health. The other thing now for applying, I think it's the same thing that goes for everything when you're applied to medical school worldwide. You need to have a very good personal statement. Be prepared to ask appropriately and in full length the questions that you will be asked in the medical interview. And I think that just show them that you are a well-rounded individual, that you care for people, that what you actually want to do, you want to do it because you want to help people, you want to be part of bettering them in their physical health, their mental health. I think that if anyone from my fellow panelists have anything else to say on that matter, please.
I mean,
feel free.
There's actually, there's another question that kind of relates to this. It's talking about entry requirements. So they're asking about, will they take our A-level results, or will we need to take their native test, or just IB diploma? So specifically for Italy, you don't have to do an Italian test. You're not required to know Italian in the first year, although it is better because you only have 2 years to learn it, so the earlier you start, the better. But you just need to present your high school grades, and you have to do an entrance exam. But it's very similar to what you study in school, and it's during the school year. So, I mean, it obviously requires some preparation, but it's not, you don't have to take time out to specifically study for it. It's quite similar to what you would do in school. So if anyone else has any information about entry requirements, please go ahead.
Ukraine.
So just to talk a little bit about this.
Sorry, Penias, go ahead. Yeah.
Sure.
We can come back.
I'll speak after, and
Sorry?
you can go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. For Ukraine, it's basically the same across Europe. You have to, European countries, they are different languages. They speak different languages. So it's either you choose to learn in English or in their language. But for you to be accepted for their local courses, like the courses in their local languages, what you have to do is you have to go through the language school probably at least for a year. Then you learn a lot of things in Ukrainian. Then after that, you are you can go ahead to have your medical school education in Ukrainian. But I think most of the people, what I've realized is most of the people from Europe, especially people from Greece, people from Turkey, people from other countries, they try their possible best to study the language for a year. I don't know how they do this so easily, but almost all of them, and probably some few Arabs, they're able to study these languages for a whole year excellently and do the courses in Ukrainian. But most students from Africa, definitely, we don't go in for their language. Most of us, we came from countries that have spoken English for a very long time without any second kind of languages. So we have it so, like, we have difficulties in adapting to these situations. So most of us go in for the English, and it's also, the English is not as smooth as the Ukrainian, but to some extent, I would say that it's very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Penias, if you wanted to continue, sorry.
Just a little addition about education from this side of the world, in particular in Zambia. The entry requirements are not very stringent, especially to enter medical school. If you're coming from an A-levels background, so if you've done some advanced levels of some sort, it's not as difficult to enter Zambia. But if you're coming straight from high school without any A-level background, then it becomes a little bit competitive, because you would have to compete with local residents to enter medical school. So usually we have, especially the University of Zambia, usually has about 1,500 students admitted into the School of Natural Science, and medical school only has about 80 slots. So you find yourself competing for 80 slots among 105 or 1,500 students. So that's really, really stringent, and you really need to be the top of the natural science class for you to actually enter. But if you're coming with a degree already, for example, if you've done something already, or if you have an A-levels background, then entry into the university is rather easy, because you just present your results to the dean, and they'll definitely consider you for admission. The requirements are not stringent as when it comes to language. English is the official language in this country, and so if someone is able to speak English to a relative extent, even if they're not as fluent, they will certainly be able to be admitted to the university. Including the visa arrangement is not so difficult to obtain to come study here, as long as you can actually speak some level of English. So when it comes to entry requirements, it's difficult if you're straight from high school trying to enter into medical school, but it is easy if you've done some other degree before, or if you have an A-levels background. If you have done some advanced levels, it's easy to enter the university and integrate into the community that is at the University of Zambia.
What about the International Baccalaureate program?
So with the International Baccalaureate program, one can actually come straight into medical school, as long as they add some advanced, more technical courses as compared to the basic courses. So someone can actually enter medical school with those the IB program.
And Ray, what's the application like in your university?
In my
I didn't get your question, Sasha.
Sorry?
Oh, no, it's fine.
No,
sorry.
No
That's okay.
Is it my time?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yes.
Talk about the apply of my university? So
yeah, the application. Yeah.
in Brazil is a little different about the other countries, because here we have two options to enter in a college. So we can do a test when we finish our high school, and it's a test that you do for all the public college. So I can do a test, and it's like unified. So I do this test, and if I have the no, if I have the grade to pass, I can choose the college that I want to go in all the states of my country. The other option, I can do a test of the college. So it's like a specific test for this college. It's the same that I did to enter in my college. So I did a test in my college, and I studied the things that the college wanted about the high school knowledge, and that's it. You can do two things to enter in a college in Brazil, and in the middle of the year and in the end of the year, the option that I can do for all states of my country is in the end of the year. So we study all the high school thinking about this test, and that's it. We can do this test and choose what state that I want to do, or Portugal too. In our test, we can choose colleges in Portugal too. That's nice.
Okay, thank you. We don't have much time left, so I think we will do one or two more questions. So there was a question about being accepted into the UK after doing a medical degree abroad. So I know that for European universities, because you graduate with an EU diploma, you can go, you can practice anywhere in Europe, as long as you take like the required test and language test. So for the UK, it's possible to go to from Italy, for example. You have to do the eligibility application, which is a little bit before the actual application for a foundation program starts. It's around August of the year that you're applying. So you just need a dean's letter, but you know your university will sort that out for you, and proof of English language proficiency. So you would have to do the IELTS. But other than that, it's basically the same as if you graduated from the UK. So if anyone else wants to add about specifically going to the UK after graduating.
I just think that you pretty much to go from what Sasha said from a European university, then you can go to the UK. And I think that you have to do pretty much the same steps as someone that has graduated from a UK university, plus one more in the very beginning, like foundation year. I'm not sure if anyone knows anything more about it. You can correct me.
Yeah, there's an exam that you need to do, which is called SJT, but everyone who applies to that one. Yeah, that's the one you have to do. Andy, do you have any information about going from Ukraine to UK?
Ukraine to UK, I don't really have much more information on that, because personally, I've not had such intentions at the moment, but probably maybe during my final year of study, that's where I'll try considering where to take my career to. But basically, most of the international students are thinking of going back to their home countries, especially from Africa, go back home and help develop our continent. So I think I would decide this probably maybe during my final year of study. So that's where I would do the deep or thorough research about these other opportunities, especially in other countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray, is there any information to go to the UK, Brazil?
Yes, that is okay. I don't have nothing to add.
No worries. Penias?
So I didn't was the question in terms of medical students transferring to the UK
No, I think they mean after graduation to practice as a doctor in the UK.
Okay. So it's not as difficult for us. If you do graduate from our institution and you actually want to go to the UK, it's pretty much only 3 things that will be required from you. So the first thing that you would need to do is that you will need to write the English language proficiency test. So you write the IELTS, and after that you simply write your PLAB 1 and your PLAB 2 examinations after you graduate, and it's fairly easy for you to transition to the UK once you have done those 2 PLAB exams. And however, we actually encourage many students that actually want to transfer or transition to the UK to do their internship here. So you would finish your medical school and do about 1 year of internship here, and then you can transfer to the UK more easily and join at FY2 level which is the foundation year 2 level in the UK as a doctor there. So it's not difficult. We have a number of medical doctors that actually transition from training at the University of Zambia into the UK. It's fairly easy for a number of them. We have good collaborations in terms of the embassy trying to facilitate that, and the British Council here is very as well and well functioning to actually help doctors that want to transition to the UK. So it's not a difficult path for those that actually want to take that route.
Okay, thank you. I think this is going to be the last question since we're finishing right on time. So there was a few questions about if you need to take a specific language in A levels if you want to become an international doctor. There's no need to do that. Only take a language if you want to. If you go, for example, to Italy, they won't require you to do Italian at A level, for example. Of course, it would help, but they don't look at the languages. The most important thing is to have sciences. Usually, it tends to be biology and chemistry, but for example, in Italy, they don't look, they would prefer you to have biology, for example, but you don't have to. You can come from a non-scientific background, but as long as you do the entrance examination, then you can apply. And they just look at the grade, which is usually quite a low entrance grade actually compared to, for example, the UK, but then you have to do an entrance examination. So it's just for your personal benefit to do another language, especially if it's the same language you want to then study, the language of the country you want to study in. So there's no requirement to take a language. And I think those are all the questions, and we're finishing right on time. So thank you so much for everyone. If any questions, you have any more questions, feel free to privately message us, and we can keep answering throughout the whole day if you have any questions specifically about our specific universities or something. So, yeah.
Thank you all for taking that talk. Again, if anyone has got more questions, opportunities to ask them later on. I'm sure a few of the people that have just spoken have mentioned ways to get in touch with questions that haven't already been answered. So for doing that, that was absolutely fantastic. Break now. There's a session at 2:30. We'll be talking about the MMI interviews as well. So there's a bit of ask questions away in the chat. I'm sure that a few of you guys, if you hang around and see if you could answer some of those questions. Other than that, we'll wrap this session up. Thank you very much.